There's some things that are important to know when it comes to the CIA, since everybody's bashed all over the CIA, and since it's during Kennedy's time that the CIA was really, it was blown into a bunch of smithereens, reducing it being centralized, which then led to more problems. But again, Kennedy was tied to the crown, so that served the crown. So, but before the CIA was the CIA, there was the Office of Strategic Services. Franklin Roosevelt created this on June 13th, 1942, through an executive order. Roosevelt appointed Major General William Donovan, a decorated World War I veteran and lawyer, as its director. Donovan is considered the driving force behind it. So, and that was because it was during the war, okay? So then in 1947, the CIA was created. So, and this is what it says, Cold War tensions. This is the reasons it was created, the CIA. The growing rivalry with the Soviet Union after World War II highlighted the need for a centralized intelligence agency to counter Soviet espionage and covert operations, coordination of intelligence, the fragmented nature of U.S. intelligence during World War II spread across military and civilian agencies, which led to inefficiencies. The CIA was designed as a centralized body to collect, analyze, and disseminate foreign intelligence. Also for covert operations, to conduct covert actions against hostile states or groups, particularly in the context of the Cold War. This included psychological warfare, subversion, and paramilitary operations. It was also created for strategic warning, to provide the president and policymakers with timely intelligence to make informed decisions on global security issues. The CIA was modeled in part on its wartime predecessor, the OSS, the Office of Strategic Strategy, Office of OSS. And it aimed to address the post-war intelligence failures, basically, because for instance, Pearl Harbor, okay? The surprise attack on Pearl Harbor exposed the lack of a unified system for detecting threats. The CIA was tasked with providing strategic warnings and preventing similar intelligence failures. During the Cold War, the CIA inherited the OSS, so they inherited their expertise in clandestine activities to counter Soviet influence. This included, as I said, espionage, all that. The CIA established a permanent institutional base for overseas espionage and counterintelligence operations, ensuring continuity in monitoring foreign threats. These reforms ensured that intelligence gathering and covert operations were more organized and responsive to national security needs. So, had Kennedy not come in and blown it into a million smithereens to where it was no longer a centralized service, we likely would have been protected from 9/11. It's true. It's true. Because they were designed because of intelligence failures, like because of Pearl Harbor. So if you want more of Pearl Harbor, then just go with that Kennedy's a hero by him breaking up the CIA. It was the worst thing he did. Because then, first of all, and I think it was just because it was a way to give Britain all the intelligence that the CIA had, because what he did was he spread it out with the FBI and with the State Department. It was in all these different areas. So it was the very problem that it was created to fix. He turned around and created that problem. It's true. But the media is not going to tell you that. Because, well, everybody, and maybe nobody will, because, I mean, the public doesn't want to know the truth, right? I mean, I read from the documents the other day how he didn't want it tied back to him what they were doing, and they were having these regular meetings with FBI, all of these joint chiefs of staff. Like, the whole point of the Central Intelligence Agency was because this is what they're focused on, and this is what they do, and this is to protect those gaps so we don't have those gaps to where things like Pearl Harbor happen or something worse like 9/11. But Kennedy came in and convinced the public that CIA was at fault for everything. And yet you don't realize that they did protect our interests. I've read enough of the documents from the JFK file, like the first batch they put out, and there's still 2,900 pages that they still have to release. That's all that's left to be released now. But those first pages, when I was reading about this Cold War stuff, I'm like, they're very thorough. So they would write these reports about, and you can say, oh, it's unethical, but again, you have, especially with Cuba, that's 90 miles off of our shore. Okay, so that for Kennedy to F that up is beyond me. Like, he did, as I said before, it's simple. Kennedy could have said, we're not doing the Bay of Pigs at all, and that would have been better than doing it but not giving air support. Like, at every level, things he did hurt America. So then when you come forward, and then, yeah, there was nobody that came along and fixed it because it was already broken up into a million pieces. And it was coordinating with the FBI, that's when the FBI and them started having these power struggles, which then, you lead to this problem. They did not hide the documents about Kennedy because they didn't want you to know who killed him. They have hidden them because they don't want you to realize that Kennedy was working for the wrong side. And that blows the Democrat Party out of the water. That blows the Progressive Party. That it shows Britain for who they are. That's the reason they didn't want them released. It has nothing to do with, they're hiding who killed him. I don't know that we'll ever fully know. I don't know that it even matters, because at this point, maybe somebody thought it was in America's best interest. Oh, that's horrible. It is horrible. It is horrible. But we haven't even addressed as a country what happened to Trump in 2020. We still have media people, especially Britain too, is doing it, that acts like the people that believe that 2020 was stolen, that we're crazy, and yet all of those people have no common sense. Again, it's very obvious Joe Biden couldn't get more than 30 people at a rally all through his running for 2020. And Trump averaged this in the summer of 2020. He averaged between 25,000 and 50,000 at every single rally. His very last rally was like 50,000 or 55,000. Joe Biden never got more than 30 people. If you can't have common sense and put together that something went horribly wrong and there's no way that Joe Biden got more votes than Obama when he couldn't even get more than 30 people at a rally, then you're an idiot, right? You're an idiot. Let's just say it. You can lie to yourself as a Democrat and say to yourself, no, you're just being ridiculous. All the experts. Yeah, that's why you shouldn't listen to experts. It's really obvious. Go look at the numbers for the rallies. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And then they were so sloppy with the way that they cheated. And I'm sure that information is collected. I'm positive it is. I'm positive Trump has it. But again, is anybody reporting that? No, they just want you to move on from that. And what I'm trying to say is, how can we ever move on? Nobody even wants to address what Kennedy was doing. So to try to fix the country without being fully honest about these things that were a problem is like impossible, because you have to start from a place of honesty. And nobody can really tell anybody, because people will just say, oh, I don't believe this, I don't believe that. Yeah, and your Democrats will continue and progress because they're anti-American. They'll continue to say that. I've never once ever seen a Democrat take responsibility. They're not good at it. It's not in their nature. So the fact is, though, we'd have to even go back to the Kennedy, because the mob helped sway the Illinois vote for Kennedy. The mob says it. So we need to get honest about these things and stop attacking CIA.